We're live. Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, and we have a great group of people on today. We got Matt, Mojo Mindset, Donato Callahan from Bright Investor, and Chris. And good morning, fellas.
Hey, good morning, man.
How you doing?
Just want to everyone know Chris is a little under, but that's also because Patriots lost last night, so he's not feeling well. But so, big news this week: the Feds have cut rates. And was that kind of shocking for you folks, the 50 point basis cut?
Yeah, I think myself, a lot of investors, myself included, were expecting a 25-point cut, and I think a lot of the market had priced that in. And it was pretty interesting to see over the last couple of days, people equating this start of the easing in the Fed fund rates to a couple other times in history when they started to be cut. And there were some interesting articles being shuffled around where the last, the 6 times that rates have been cut and since the mid early 90s, the 2 other times that it started with a half point was in 2000 and lead up to the dot-com boom bust, and in 2007, before the great financial crisis. So seeing some people, equating this 50-point cut to a more fearful Fed and, wary of what's going to happen over the next 6 to 18 months. And especially seeing the 10-year treasury jump, after the rate got cut. Definitely something where, the first articles coming out where Fed cuts rates and mortgage rates jump, definitely not what the average consumer was expecting.
Yeah, I think that
to
caught
hear.
everyone by
And for
surprise a
those,
little bit.
yeah, absolutely. So really interesting situation. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen over the next, next meeting and the week meeting after that, when they're already projecting another 50-point cut. So we'll see what happens.
And you did mention fear,
What?
and that is every economist knows about fear because the general theory came out with it in 1936. He called it animal spirits, and that can turn an economy like that. If we just stop, if we're afraid, we stop spending in general. And when the Fed rate cut happened, I did it like a quick live the other day, and I just said, what I'm doing is I'm waiting right now, and I'm going to contact some real estate agents over the next few weeks to see what they're seeing. Because in general, we can look at mortgage apps and all that, but people will go to a home before, in general, they'll go to a mortgage person. If there's increased people going to homes, there's an open house down the road from my house. I'm going to step in and just see how many people came through. Because if we see that demand hitting, it will hit the mortgage apps. It will, and then for all of us, it'll increase our portfolio price. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of wait and see, talk to some agents that I know and see what they're seeing. Has there been an increase? I had 2 people at work yesterday say they cut rates. Should I start looking? And I'm like, talk to your loan officer.
Yeah, the time to be prepared for the rate cutting, right, was like 3, 6 months ago, getting your systems in place, doing your kind of buy box neighborhood research. And so like even here in the just New Orleans area, right, you're seeing um, I don't know if 6% on the handle is really getting that fringe or kind of buyer to kind of get into the game, but I'm sure you start seeing a 5, you'll start seeing some activity come up. And like you said, Chris, it's like that cascading effect of, all right, people are looking at houses, now they're contacting the mortgage loaner, and it's like that cascading effect. So I think that's a very prudent advice, is to, continue doing what you were doing as you were preparing to kind of wait for this opportunity. And then, yeah, I think we're also still seeing wish pricing in some of our areas where we're seeing, we had 10% price cuts on properties that are on market 80 plus days here. And so, you start seeing that and you think, well, the prices that you thought you were going to sell are far from reality nowadays. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, give a shout out to Joe Farrell from Strive for 25 here. Go check out his YouTube channel. I put his link in the chat. Also Donato's channels, and Chris talked about doing a live right after or reaction, so go check out his YouTube channel also. But Joel mentioned, Joel's a lender also, so he says the Fed funds rate is higher than the 10-year Treasury, almost 2%. This is not normal. So it has already been priced in. I have a chart that I'm getting ready to post today. So yeah, so everyone go check out Joel. He's going to probably have a post on the rates right now. So the one thing I want to talk about too is like Zuber was talking about, 25 raise 25, 50, 75, right? So where does the fear, with a 50 cut is kind of like the Fed is afraid or scared of something. So what's your guys' thoughts on that as far as them doing a 50 cut initially?
Well, I mean, judging by the amount of real estate investors, influencers who posted 50-point cut, time to get back in the game yesterday, who are posting, I think it's something that a lot of us have been waiting for, from things such as, one, not only buying properties, but folks who are reliant on everyone's favorite acronym, OPM, other people's money. Not only buying properties, but convincing other people to lend to you in this environment and continue to partner with you on properties is definitely advantageous to you now, because that is a really nice, juicy headline that investors can leverage to say, look, it's better now. Let's go ahead and make things happen. But I do have to say, the amount of real estate investors who have had some troubles, I think I hope it's a very indicative sign of just how much a management of assets is so crucial beyond just purchasing a property and raising rents. Doing things like expense control and being able to go into these assets and manage them long-term so the business side is successful is something that I think really came to the forefront these last couple of years. And so my hope is that through the raising of, or I guess you could say the raising of affordability and the lowering of interest rates as that comes through, I would hope that real estate investors keep that lesson in mind, that you need to be able to manage the asset and not only buy a great piece of property at an awesome basis, but also be able to work the business side of it in order to avoid losing your pants like a lot of people did over the last 12 months.
Yeah, I like that. Were you going to go ahead, Matt?
Oh, no, I was just kind of echo, like, talked about earlier, like that consumer, right? So like for my business, it's a short-term rental, right? So we saw our, amount of bookings were really high, 2020, 2021, 2022, it went, started trickling down maybe like 10% off the top end. And so, what do we do as, business owners, right? Is, we have to find ways to streamline or become more efficient. And like you said, Donato, like that expense control, right? Stabilizing that property, and kind of weathering maybe the storm, weeding out maybe some of the people that got into the game that are just thinking, hey, like, this is sweet. I just got to get an Airbnb, put on Airbnb, list it, and I'm a millionaire next week. Certainly that is, not the case. Lots of hard work, lots of maybe even tough decisions to fire people, fire cleaners, fire contractor, whatever the case may be, to streamline that business if it's not working out.
Yeah, I love this quote.
Curtis,
right
yeah,
go ahead, please.
PE turned RE is here. Check out his YouTube channel, but he's supposed to be teaching students right now. I don't know what he's doing, hopping up, but thanks for hopping on my live.
You got an early coffee break.
But he says getting quotes to rate and term finance 6.625 down to between 5.625 and 6. Yeah.
I mean, I have an inkling that 475 to 525 is going to be real nice for consumers. Mm-hmm. Like I'm looking at all these different streams on, things like Reddit and articles, and seeing people look at, oh man, my rate got bought down to 5.4. That's amazing. And people are just gushing over that. I'm like, okay, if we're between like a high 4, mid 5s. I think that really trips a trigger for a lot of people when it comes to what they're thinking of, because they've been looking at 7s and for a long time. And that's really, I think, what we're going to see. We're already seeing mortgage rate application spike over the last 48 hours, which is great. Mm-hmm. But we're also going to see people who are, I have a friend of mine who's buying a house right now, and he's going through the refinance process, and his psychology is hey, 50-point cut just happened. That's fantastic. Let me call the lender. Yeah. Then the greed sets in. They're like, well, there's another one coming here soon. If I wait just a little bit longer, I'm going to get an even better rate. And so I think we're going to see a lot of that, where buyers are definitely with this cut, they're reinvigorated and hey, honey, it might be time to upgrade our house, might be time to downsize, might be time to make that move. But we already have a 50-point cut. They're telling me another one's going to come soon. Let's just get our ducks in a row right now. And then over the next 60 to 90 days, when the next one comes out, let's go pull the trigger. And so I think going into 2020, I mean, typically a very low transactionary period, I can see a lot of people rolling into the new year saying, hey, let's go. It's time to make happen, after letting the next 2 months go by where they're just seeing where the rates end up stabilizing for a little bit.
And I think you hit on 2 points there. One, a little earlier, you talked about investors that have kind of said, oh, it's time for me to jump in. I think that's a reaction to the rate increase that we had because it increased so quickly. And they have done some of their homework. They realize what their numbers are, and they know that, okay, rates are going to come down. I need to get in because now I need to own for X number of years. And the other thing that you said is people are going to wait till the new year. When we talk about the Fed being afraid, I think that's what they're afraid of. Because if we look at our output, the growth in the economy, it's generally around 70%. If we just cut our spending, that's consumption. 70% of it is consumption. If we cut our consumption by 10%, what does that do to the overall economy rolling into the new year? And I think that the Fed may see some numbers and they're like, people are not spending. I can tell you guys, I went out to breakfast this morning. Great, one of the best places in Lynchburg. I was there for about 40 minutes with my wife. We were the only two people in the place. Mm-hmm. Anecdotal, but are people saying, you know what, I'm not going to do anything until November? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's a curveball. People are probably like, oh, like let's kind of see how this shakes out, right? Lots of uncertainty in the upcoming months. So that's a fair point.
I mean, we're 60 days away from, a landmark election. We have a repeat election, presidential contender and Donald Trump. And then we also have another, kind of this little switcheroo from, Biden steps down, the incumbent, to pave way for Kamala. And then, a lot of firsts there, first woman, first minority president. It's a very large, election coming up. And I think a lot of people are saying, either way, there's going to be a huge economic change to this country. Mm-hmm. And of course, the kind of conversation I think that lingers behind all of this is the national debt and just what the plan is. I mean, I remember I'm a young guy, I'm 25, 12 years ago, right? I was in middle school, and I remember doing a very specific course on the national debt's at $17 trillion. And we watched the calculator go up and, did a whole lesson on it. And then to see that in 12-year time from America's previous 240 years approximately of $17 trillion, and then to double that by an additional 17 to 18 trillion in 12 years is insane. I mean, I'm watching the fact that we're spending $3 billion a day on interest payments. And when it comes to where we are as a country and what we have as far as options, the country either A, cuts rates, allows us to borrow cheaper, and continues to kick the can down the road, which in my personal opinion is what's going to happen, because no one politician, no one person has the capacity to change our fiscal policy. And I don't think nobody wants to be the person that reset asset values, actually tackled the debt problem for our country, and then receive all the blame for the fact that every American over the age of 50 in all their retirement vehicles lost 70% of their asset value. Yeah. No one wants to be that guy. That's also the largest voting demographic. And so you kind of have this, well, we need the option for us to be able to start prioritizing long-term growth of the country. And this debt is going to be crippling. And so I think that also comes into play here where you have folks who are kind of tapped out, on the consumer side for savings they have. There's an election upcoming that could, for a lot of people, they're putting their long-term belief in where the direction of the country is going. And then you have folks that need that spending to be basically reinvigorated to allow these companies, because we're seeing huge cuts. Intel is a great example of this, Or I don't know if you saw the news this week, but Tupperware The Tupperware company.
Bankrupt, right?
Are you
Filing,
kidding
something
me?
like that.
I mean, from a consumer mindset, when large names start going down, fear goes up.
That's right.
And you have tens of thousands of high-paying white-collar tech jobs, and then American cornerstone companies, Tupperware. Everyone knows Tupperware, and yet they're on their way out. It definitely creates, in my opinion, a very valid reason for consumers and investors to be wary of what we're going to see in the next 60 to 90 days. And then, dependent on how the Fed reacts going into the new year, if the solution becomes keep increasing the national debt, they need to buy assets as fast as possible because they made their decision, and the only people that are going to win are people who are going to be owning.
Yeah, before we move on, I forget. Didn't you graduated high school early, right? I forget. Was that?
No, I didn't graduate high school early. No, I graduated high school in 2017, college in 2021.
But you graduated college in was it? I forgot. Wasn't it pretty quickly? Like you didn't do the 4 years, or you did the 4 years and.
No, I did a full 4 years, but I took a year and I went I studied in Montana, went to South Africa, went to a bunch of places, and did that for a year. But I did technically a full 4 years.
Oh, okay, I forgot what we talked about on our interview, but I remember I was kind of impressed. But you talking about your report, I mean, I was watching G.I. Joe and stuff when you're doing a report on the national debt, and I mean, yeah. So, but yeah, but that's cool. Yeah, I like what you're talking about. It's really like they're kicking the can down the road, and it's same thing too. You're talking about. I think it's like a mindset too, right? They're preparing people like, hey, you're supposed to work to 75, right? That's what we're supposed to be doing, right? There was a report, I think now the new retirement age is going to be 75, or people have to work to 75. So they're almost like trying to trick people into thinking like, yeah, this is what you're supposed to be doing, and it's better for, this is how you're going to give to the society and things like that. So it's funny how they're trying to make people think differently and see that they're supposed to be, this is the path, right? In a sense that they're trapping you into.
Yeah.
Well,
and go ahead, Chris.
You can go ahead, Matt. I just wanted to say it sounded like a Bears fan's memory when you were saying you couldn't remember what he. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. We always good to crap on the Bears. I got a good buddy that's a Bears
Whoa,
fan.
I'm gonna find some new guests pretty soon. This gotta change. I gotta bring some different people on. I'm gonna bring Curtis on, the biggest Bears fan out there. I don't know if he's still listening though. He doesn't. Hey, Frank's here. What's up, old guy REI?
I gotta stick together, man. Soldiers Field through tough times. But to kind of like piggyback on that point, if you're somebody that is going through school right now, going through college, I think it's very easy to look at what's on the news, what's on the headlines, what's on mainstream media, and be like, owning a home is just not for my generation, right? Owning a home, buying assets, that's just not for me. And so like they're already kind of like that narrative of like they're already kind of getting you down that where it's like, dude, that's not even possible for you. So don't even try. Stay in school, get student loans, get a good job, work until, like you said, 75, and then you will be able to. So it's like, I think people need to really ask, like, is this the only way? And just start with those questions. And then you'll be able to kind of critically think for yourself of like, hey, given my situation, this is what I think is my instinct of like what really could be the future for me. And I think, that independent thought, self-reflection too is, that's kind of what helped me at least kind of get off the path of like, oh, like I'm gonna just be in the military for like 20 plus years and like kind of do this and then get another job after that. It's like, you could do things a little different.
Everyone, go check out Frank's YouTube channel. He has a great accountability group on Wednesdays, but he puts those up on his channel. And we need someone to monitor the bot situation going on here. We got Joe V from school tuning in. He
That is
says,
hilarious.
"Hey, Mark, to become a firefighter, I don't think you need more than a third grade education." Yeah, that's because he couldn't pass the test, Joe. Joe was a Leo for a little while, but yeah. Hey, but Donato, I think I don't know, Chris. I don't know if you were the one that mentioned. Somebody mentioned or replied to. I posted something for Donato talking about how everyone loved that kind of comment discussion. You're talking about how inflation is a requirement for American retirement, and you came up with it. You made it rhyme, like you said. But I think there's a lot of people that started thinking about it differently. So you want to talk about that or dig deeper into that a little bit?
I would love to. I saw. I appreciate we made the. I saw you made a post about that on Instagram. And you came to my defense in the comments, so I appreciated that, Mark.
Oh, Christian's the guy that fights with everyone, though.
I mean,
I'm working on my chin. One guy said a chin on that guy, so I'm working on it.
That's right.
I mean, like, here's what I have to say, right? Let's just get down to brass tacks. I was this jaded 25-year-old in the U.S., ready to go. When it comes to, American retirement, it's a relatively novel concept that there's a point in time where it's socially acceptable for me to buy enough assets or have enough wealth coming in without direct input of effort to be able to yield a certain income for me to live my life. Relatively novel in the last 150, 200 years, really. Really, you could say, in the last 150 years, truly. Especially over the last 60 years, when we see the almost irrelevance of pensions and the, more or less the removal of third-party providers kind of providing for that actual, retirement, and more so, we see people relying on either Social Security or dwindling, individual accounts such as, Roths and brokerage accounts that they're investing in. But high level, a huge part of the American promise is that if you work hard, eventually you'll be able to retire and live out your years in ease. And the only way that works, because populations go up, inflation happens, goods cost more over time, is that we're able to either A, have increased incomes to match that, or B, our assets and the income they yield from them continues to go up and up over time to cover increased costs. So the only way that we're going to be able to basically preserve the American retirement dream is if assets continue to rise and rise and rise, which by definition makes those same assets less and less affordable to your younger worker population. Now, it's a cruel twist of fate that the folks who have the largest accumulation of assets are also the demographic that are the most active in the polls, and are the largest voting bloc in the country, which is fine. I understand. And so what we have is kind of shifting of the young who largely have less and less access to assets. Now, granted, it's possible. I'm sitting here as a guy who, bought a couple hundred apartment units at 25. I retired. I'm in real estate full time. It's 100% possible for people who choose to do it, but it's not necessarily easy or as acceptable or as accessible as it may have been in the past. So I want to make that exceptionally clear. It can be done. But you have a large demographic that are from the media hearing renter nation, it's not going to work for you. Just live your best life right now. Just spend, in part to stimulate the economy. You then have folks who are largely not investing in the assets they need to provide for them long term. And they're not as active in the polls as the other side of the equation, who has the assets, who needs them to continue to go up in value, and needs people who are going to continue to vote and write policy that they can continue to drive that income. So kind of going back to our interest rate conversation, either A, new asset opportunities need to emerge, allowing people to get in and watch the assets rise over time. Like, NVIDIA is a really cool example of that. Like, hey, this company's been slowly going on for 30 years. You bought it at the right time. Great, going on. But then you see companies where I think a lot of consumer frustration comes from. There's companies like Intel or Boeing, or companies that have very public, very repeated failures, where people are saying, why are these companies being propped up? Why is there not new innovation? Why is there not new opportunities for something to take their place and give us chances to buy into something when it's young again? Well, the answer to that is because those companies are no longer companies. They're investment vehicles for pensions and funds. So many of these companies no longer exist to serve consumers, in my opinion. They only exist to be dividend bearers and value increase assets for consumers to invest in. So it's not about.
Did we lose him?
No.
How many, nails you sell at Home Depot. Depot and so that is what I mean when I say inflation is a requirement for American retirement. And when you have a larger and larger group of people who are becoming disincentivized and disenfranchised in terms of, this is not going to be for me, I don't get to participate in this dream, they just stay asleep because that's all they can do. That's all I have to say.
I think he didn't like it because you made it rhyme too. I think that's what it was. He was upset that this clown is making it rhyme.
You did mention that basically the timelines for these investments are quarterly. And that does hurt number one, it hurts the overall economy because as many people who analyze stocks know, you can throw things in different ways to make the quarterlies look good. But the second thing that it does is it removes the mechanism that the market is there to provide, and that is to take wealth and distribute it among other people. Think about this. How many of us have bought homes from people that were younger than us? In general, you're going to buy a home from somebody who's older than you, which means the wealth that they have is now transferred to us who are younger. And not this kind of wealth transfer is definitely not taught in school. But it is the mechanism of the market is you work. If you guys ever see the income rate goes up and then it hits about 55 and then it starts leveling out and then it starts going down because you build that wealth and then you live off that wealth towards the end of your life. And the way that you live off of it is by maintaining that asset price and then using it in your consumption. And when you sell those assets off to get that cash that you can use for your yearly expenses, you are transferring that wealth to somebody else. And it's unfortunate that many of when I teach students, I explain to them basics of the market. And they're like, why do people not understand these? And I say, I don't know if they do or do not, but I know that the policies sometimes do not. And it's very difficult that when we understand that there's a mechanism out there to do these kind of things that everybody suggests, we just don't allow it to happen.
All right, we need a moderator. I said in
you also
the chat. Joe B has another comment here. He had to make it rhyme for you to understand. I do the same for my 3-year-old. All right.
Who's making the policy in the country?
Yeah, baby steps.
All right, go ahead, Donato. Sorry, man.
Yeah, you're fine. I mean, I also don't think we can ignore the debt markets. I mean, debt is exceptionally profitable, which is a crazy thing to think about. But for a lot of institutions that rely on, 30-year mortgage as a primary debt, or income bearer off of debt, how do I sell that to someone? How do I sell? Hey, I want you to pay this to me for 30 years, and over the course of the loan, you're going to pay twice what in value. Well, I'm going to sell that to you based off one, hey, it's a great place to live, and you can raise your family there, a key part of the American dream. But the second part is, look, this is going up. This is going to be a great deal for you. So by the time you're done, you're going to have an asset that's worth X that you can tap through HELOCs or refinances or liquidity events. And so when you have this part of the reward ratio so heavily favored to this will be worth more tomorrow, I mean, how many things do we do in our lives based on the precipice that this will be worth more tomorrow? Or that my dollar will be worth less tomorrow? Everything. I would argue everything.
Right.
Everything.
That's the concept of time preference. It's the dollar today is we want to spend our dollar today knowing that the value will be lost in the future, or knowing that the value not necessarily will be lost, but unknown in the future.
Exactly. And it doesn't take too much to look at, how much did a dollar get you 50 years ago? Oh yeah, I went to Dairy Queen and got my cone for a dime. And like my grandparents, had a Dairy Queen franchise. My great grandparents, in fact, actually. And talking about the prices, and how my grandfather talks about, oh yeah, I bought my home for $33,000 because the bank wouldn't lend to me for a house worth $35,000. I'm like, that sounds great, Grandpa. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for rubbing it in.
Yeah,
Right.
but it's just the fact that in order for some of the most profitable mechanisms in our country to work, that is lending to people, there's an equal exchange of value in that we're going to give you an increase in value in your asset over time.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, inflation of those assets being a requirement for good old American retirement.
And the banks, what they want too is they want to have members of their banks institutions to keep their money in the savings and checking accounts, right? So they get arbitrage and that lending difference, right? We're paying you 0.05 on your money, but your money's safe with us. Meanwhile, they turn around, multiply it, and write a loan 6-7% or something, whatever the case may be. But that delta has got to go somewhere, and that's what's keeping money circulating throughout the whole economy. I'm sure, like obviously Chris will be able to kind of school me up on, but that's my base level knowledge of that at least.
I was going to ask Chris the same question. Chris, are you familiar with the current reserve rate right now is for banks?
I do not.
Okay.
But Matt, you are correct. We have these things that are called multipliers. When we look at, most economists will look at the aggregate expenditure model, which is basically GDP. And what happens is for every marginal dollar, so additional dollar that is injected into the economy, we have a multiplier effect. And it's based off of what we save and what we invest, or what we save and what we consume, excuse me. And they do these mathematic formulas where we call it the marginal propensity to consume. So if it's 60%, for example, every $1 that's added to the economy as a marginal dollar, it means 60 cents of that dollar will be consumed. I think there are some issues with that because in general, we do consume for our daily, like monthlies, but we also consume for other things too. And I think that it can hurt long-term, but as it stands right now, this is what we have. And I was talking to somebody the other day and they're like, well, I wish we could just go back to the gold standard. And I said, I understand that, but that'd be like saying, I want to have a 4.0 GPA and I'm at a 2.5 and I have 3 classes left. Right now, it's virtually impossible. Can we make steps towards kind of bringing down that debt, bringing in that money supply? Possibly, but we can't just cut it off right away. That would really harm the economy, number one. And number two, it's just, in my opinion, not feasible at this moment, but there's ways that we can take steps to do it. One thing I will say, just to kind of switch topics a little bit to Donato, you were talking about the asset prices maintaining or growing over time. I think that's also one of the fears that the Fed sees is they're like, these people are sitting on these assets. These people, 40% don't have a mortgage?
Mm-hmm.
Are they able to sell it at that value? Because if they're not, and this is not a political thing, but if there's a policy change that says that, no, you can't have, say, an Airbnb in a certain location, well, that will decrease the value of that asset that you purchased 20 years ago and you turned into an Airbnb recently. That fear could be playing a role into them saying, you know what, let's get some buyers up there to make sure that these values are maintained over the course of the next 5 or so years. I just thought that was a pretty interesting point that you brought up and thought I'd bring it back to that Fed decision. Do you guys have any other questions on money? It's an odd subject.
Well, I did want to, if you guys want to pivot a little bit, I mean, we can go into fourth quarter goals pretty soon, but Chris had a good post on X that I want to talk about. He said the sources of down payment. So you had one that said, you've been explaining this to your audience at your local groups about the pathway of the buyer is important. And there's a chart of evidence on this theory. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
I can talk about that quickly. It's basically, I do four separate quadrants, right? Entry level, 25% below the median, or the first 25% quartile of the median. The median would be move up 1, above the median would be move up 2, and then at the top end would be luxury. Generally, people enter through the entry level, stay there for 4 or 5 years, build some equity, sell it, take that amount, use it as a down payment on their move up. And they continue to do this throughout the years. And then eventually when they're older, they will move kind of back down. But people are always like, well, the median salary is this, and I can't afford a down payment of 20% on a median home. Well, a median home is not an entry-level home. You have to get on the ladder first. That's like saying the median salary for a director at the university that I work at is this, but my salary is below that. I'm not a director.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get on the ladder and you kind of grow with it.
That's the
That'd be
key.
fun
I think
stuff.
just
That's
getting
a good
on the ladder, right? Yeah.
That's you can make this for social media right there. Good little soundbite there. Do people not want to climb the ladder anymore? That's a good question.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, are they being taught that they don't have to?
Ooh, there we go.
Because of these guys right here.
Is the ladder going out the window? I mean, it's very possible. I mean, at no other point in history has it been so easy to compare and see. It's also never been easier to deceive. And I think every time we have a recession or pullback, we see just how many people were swimming naked, proverbially, out there. It's something where, especially it was furnished fine midterm rentals for a little bit, and then right now it's going into co-living and real estate, and then I'm also seeing a lot of people go in the RAL space, residential assisted living. There's always something to jump the ladder. And, understandably, every entrepreneur and real estate investor by and large is someone who's looking to hasten their climb. But I think dichotomy there, it's about going up the ladder faster, not skipping it all in its entirety.
Right.
I'm finding ways to accelerate my journey, not just, I'm almost saying this to myself right now because I constantly compare myself to people who are 20 and 30 years older than I am. Like, it's not a way to just step into the reality of someone who's 30 years, older than me. Because unfortunately, one of the biggest components of wealth building is time and effort and patience. So I think there are ways that you can multiply that across, faster and faster in that same period of time. But the idea that people can continue to just live their lives and grow irrespective of the ladder's position where they are on it is probably one of the most damaging things that we have, which is probably leading to people saying, well, why even try? Like, I'm going to have to get on the ladder and do it for 20 years. I'm just going to stick here. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, man, with social media and internet and that consumer culture, right? We're comparing my ladder to Donato's ladder, to Mark's ladder, to Chris's ladder. And so we're always, instead of kind of like focusing on, hey, what is like choices I made up until this point, what can I do to, like you said, accelerate that climb, right? Increase my income, decrease my expenses. For me, it was a house hack, right? Living for quote unquote free, right? Mm-hmm. It's, it's not like a earth-shattering idea, right? People have been doing it for years and years before it became house hacking. Now, got its fame, right? Got its viral moment. Oh, what's up, man? So yeah, I think that's a good thing. Is like, hold on to your own ladder. We saying what's up?
Yeah, it's like early out of bed.
Let me just jump on. Yeah, let me jump onto that and say, and you guys can agree or disagree. I think that the way that you accelerate on the ladder is focus, which I think we all have watched Mike over the years, and Mike says what focus does is it allows you to look at what you're looking at, but it also tells you cannot look at what you're looking at. You have to, it's what focus is you have to look and you have to maintain that, and you learn every day, and you're able to accelerate those steps every week, every month, every year. Whereas a lot of people, they just think they can jump in on the 6th step because they work in Silicon Valley and they have a high income. And it's like, you can do that, but will it be successful in the long run?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like I said, if you're making 500K, but you're spending 450, somebody making just 100K, spending 25 over the long run, over the course of time, will be able to compound that money, given their financial decisions that they're making. So, yeah, it's, like you said, super easy to compare each other's ladder, looking left to right. But when you focus, you're following one course until successful. That's kind of
One
what
thing,
I think is hard.
yeah, I think one thing also, I mean, I find myself looking at, and I end up trying to split this really weird kind of road here because I've done a lot of hard things, but also kind of looking at what had to happen to get me here at the same time. Like I know my great grandfather, right, started a welding supply company in a super small town in Iowa, and he ran it for 20 years, and then he gave it to he retired to Florida, and then had my grandfather come back from Vietnam and step into that for 25 years, and he ran that every single day of his life for 25 years, till selling it for making just over like $1 million in the mid 90s. And then he's had to, he had to raise my parents and my mom, and she had to go to school and then work. And so he had to compound out money over time. And then she had to go to school and get a good job, put myself to where I am. And then understanding that all of that was the foundation for me to then go out there and say, okay, great. Now I'm going to work hard and be the valedictorian of high school. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get these good things and move forward. But also recognizing that a lot of like the hard work that has been done on my side, right, started because 4 other people were climbing a ladder through time. And there was a handoff, right, over 20 or 25 years of continuing. And, you have some folks who are getting it truly, like out of the mud, I think. Folks who are doing it, they are the first person to actually say, you know what, I'm going to start climbing. You have other folks who, have 10 generations behind. And so being able to say, this is where I'm at, this is where we are. And then you can either accelerate your climb or you can, go at a more steady pace, but nowhere is anyone able to just hop on, hop off and do it in sustainable ways.
Right. And one thing I think I will add to that is you mentioned that you had like a structure behind you. And I had a conversation with somebody recently about some of the people that at my organization that are siblings. And I said, because they were like, well, I don't understand why sometimes siblings, they kind of promote a little quicker than others. And I go, and I understand that. However, do you mean to tell me that these people are not having conversations at Thanksgiving, at Christmas, all about the industry? So they're able to accelerate because they're having those off the clock conversations at a higher rate than somebody who doesn't have that familial connection. So I think that it is difficult for some people to wrap their head up around what you were just saying, because they're like, well, I'm doing the same thing that so-and-so is doing, but I'm not getting the same results. You're not doing the same thing that so-and-so is doing because you are in a different situation. You have to apply the rules to yourself, and it's very difficult to say, I can only do what I can do. I cannot compare myself to so-and-so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry for the little guest appearance. He heard the information was so great, so he wanted to check it out for himself. But
guest star.
He's laying on the floor over there. But actually, we do have a star in the house. We have Lawrence Briggs here in the comments, so he's going to be speaking at BPCon. He's getting ready for Cancun, he said. So thanks for stopping by, Lawrence. But so what I missed? What did you guys talk about when I was gone? Do you guys even need me anymore?
Just classic ragging on the Bears.
That's right.
Yeah.
Bears talk.
I am bringing in new people next time. I gotta get ready. I gotta find new friends, man. I gotta get ready.
We just got a text from a local station in Green Bay. They wanted to bring us all on. So talk about the Bears.
Joe V said his wife was actually a Bears fan before, and she's slowly coming around to the Packers because Joe's a Packers fan.
Ooh.
But yeah. So what are you guys looking at fourth quarter? Does the rates change anything for you folks? The rate cuts, does that make anything different for what goals you guys have going into the fourth quarter?
Yeah. So for us, our goal right now is so we currently live in a triplex, and we're looking for a bigger space. Potentially probably start a family here in the next year or two. So we're here until 2027. So ideally, we can do kind of a live-in flip, right? 2 years we'll be here. Like I said, we got about a 3-year window to live in New Orleans before we, transfer and move jobs elsewhere. So for us, it's trying to find a deal. Already got pre-approved with the lender, working with actually Ned, our in the local area, trying to kind of get some of his expertise, and we'll probably hopefully do some walkthroughs, do some videos of just it fits our lifestyle right now, something that we can do, something that we have tools that we're capable of achieving, and that's just kind of a owner occupied live and flip, wrapping construction loans to the single loan product, and then go from there, document the journey. So that's our focus for at least real estate side of things.
That's great. I'd say for us, I'm still making offers on commercial buildings right now, which is great. Making offers where it makes sense for us. Pricing is still pretty haphazard for what people are expecting versus what we can do, but we're going after it. And on the Bright Investor side, for the company going well, we actually have a meeting with the CEO of eXp Realty on Monday. And nice. We're in discussions on partnership between us and eXp in a really cool, unique way. So that's something that we're working on pretty hard, as well as working with a lot of property management companies. So going out and giving access to Bright Investor to PMs that work with investors and agents every day. So working on some larger deals like that. And the interest rates should help if there is budget or if there is incentive or excitement on let's move forward, things are picking up. That's just going to help us, really kind of solidify some of these deals. So.
Oh, that's right. I better hurry up then, because I haven't signed my papers with eXp yet, and I do property management, so it's right up your alley. But yeah, before we pivot, then, so talking about Bright Investor, you mentioned. Do you notice? I don't know if you're able to keep track, but like when rates change, do you see more activity on Bright Investor? So for those you don't know, go check out Bright Investor. It's a software to like a buy box, help you find deals, evaluate properties a lot quicker. But I'll put their link in the chat. But do you notice activity changing when rates change?
I would say I notice folks who, and as far as our tracking, we'll look at folks who are coming in and what they're doing. So a lot of people are looking for multifamily right now. A lot of folks looking for 2 to 4 unit multifamilies or flips, very, very consistently in the current space. And then we see folks who are looking to get in, and there's a lot of fear, understandably. So a lot of folks are like double checking things, like looking at, what's the crime, what's the appreciation. A lot of people just wanting to not make a mistake. So a lot less I'm trying to get riches and I'm trying to avoid, huge issues. And it was really interesting. I had a call with one of our clients 2 days ago, 9:00 at night. And he had found out us through Bigger Pockets. We just got mentioned again on Bigger Pockets. We just got voted like one of the top real estate softwares 2024 from Turbo Tenant, which was awesome. But he saw I post videos on there of what we do. And he's like, hey, I got an 8-unit building. And it's like 2 miles away from this 12 unit that I have. And I thought I did a really good job doing my homework, but they're performing so differently. I'm like, okay, well, let's go check it out. And we found that the 8 unit that was having issues, the median income was almost $30,000 lower than this other area. The amount of renters was going down as opposed to going up in the area where his other high performing one was. And the type of crime and frequency of crime was a lot higher around his specific property than the other one as well. And so we were going line item by line item, and his eyes were just like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea, like it was so different just like 2 miles away. And so he's like, I'm looking at him, he's like, I think I'm gonna have to sell that one. Like, who knows? I'm like, hey, that's okay. Like if it's not doing bad, you don't have to, but like going forward, right? This is what we're gonna do to find the things that actually make sense for you, and like do those things. So there's a lot of that, and folks wanting to make sure they're not buying the wrong property in the wrong area. Because one, he had to evict 3 people. The other one, it's cash flowing like crazy. There's no problem. So I see a lot of that.
Yeah. So I put the Bright Investor link in the chat. So go check it out, everyone. Go try out the free trial. I put Janitor on Fires here, giving me shit that you guys don't need me anymore. You guys are doing just fine without me. So if anyone's wondering, my lighting, I turned it down a little bit because my son is laying on the floor over here because he woke up early. But yeah, so Chris, what about you, man? So does the rate cuts affect your goals for fourth quarter?
They don't. We're still kind of we're stable. We finally stabilized our 6 unit we got in November. So now I'm working towards optimizing that. We have somebody in one of the units that's very large, and the way that the unit is laid out, you have to walk through a bedroom to get to the kitchen. But on the flip side, there's a closet. So I'm like, why don't we just knock a hole through the closet, wall up that, and now we have a 2-1 instead of a 1-1. We bump up the rents. So I'll probably have that conversation with, I don't know if I'm going to do that in the fourth quarter, but probably the first quarter of next year. And we'll transition him either out somewhere else, or because we have another unit that's coming online as well. So I might transfer him right over to that one and then get in there and rehab that one and get it back on the market. But yeah, we're just kind of holding steady right now. That 6 unit took a lot out of me. Everybody says there's that one property that really gets you, and it's like, are you going to continue to do it or not? This was ours, and we are going to continue. But many of us have said today, we have to give it time. I got to get that thing. It's cash flowing right now, which is great, but it's not optimized. I want to get it to optimal level, and then I want to live off that for about 10, 15 years, and then I'll sell it.
And did you mention to me something about a new market possibly?
I am looking at a new market. One of the girls that worked for us at the cookie shop lives in Tennessee. She goes to the University of Tennessee. So we're going to see her in November, and we're going to go and look at some places out there. So the thing is I think I'll finish up my coursework in like 2027 ish. And I think at that time I could probably work remotely if I needed to. And we're probably going to move back out west. So we don't know how far west. Nashville, maybe Idaho. We don't know yet. It's a long time away.
Get rich and get off the grid, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I like that. A lot of good, cool stuff going on. Yeah, I think for people that's been investing for a while, the rate cuts, it's not going to change too much, right? It's just you're going to go about business as usual. Or Janet on Fire says he loves Knoxville. How many post offices are over there, Daryl? But go check out Daryl's channel, Postal Nerds. Cool stuff.
How about you, Mark?
Me?
Yeah, how's your
business as usual? I'm actually moving out of my primary right now. I'm in the process. I'm gonna move back with my parents. My mom needs hip surgery, and it's just gonna be easier. Yeah, nice. It's just and plus my house is too big for myself, and when my son is with me and my 2 cats. Yeah. But yeah,
I can already see the electrical's already going out, man. Yeah, you gotta pay that electrical bill.
I turned the light because my son is laying down, so I didn't want it too bright for him.
I know,
but
make sure you got a closet for your Crocs in the new place too.
You know what? But the funny thing you mentioned is I realize how much shit I have and how much probably you realize how much stuff you don't need cleaning out my house now, and I think that is a huge thing. That after a while you kind of realize, like, man, I don't need a lot of this stuff. So I always joke about it that I should easily be retired by now. And seeing all the gym equipment I cleaned out of my grass, I'm not even done with. That's the pain right now. Is moving out, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with all of this stuff too is a pain. And yeah, I should easily be retired by now. So hopefully my son, who's not sleeping yet, is listening and realizes he doesn't need every Sonic the Hedgehog toy in existence. And right, bud? Yeah. He nodded his head. Hey, Jen's here. Jen is also a superstar in the ORAC community. She's the one that brings, so everyone in the chat, give Jen a shout out and thanks, because she's the one that brings on all the great, or not all, but she brings on a lot of the great guests on Michael Zuber's One Rent on channel. Yeah, so she hears who people want to see, and she reaches out to them and tries to get them on the channel. So
she got DiMartino Booth.
Yeah, that's right.
She got a couple others, I remember. Yeah, great job, Jen. Thank you.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, she says there's some mean people out there. She hasn't told me who, but there's some people that they don't. They're like, "Who are you? Why are you bothering me? Like, why?" But yeah, Joe said he had to go, but he's still hanging around.
Dude, he's coming out. He's coming out. Guns blazing, Mark.
That's
funny, man.
And see Jen. Yep. So yeah, anything else you guys want to talk? I mean, we can talk about anything, politics, whatever. But yeah. Oh, yeah. Jen says she gets rejected a lot.
No,
Yeah.
People
But thanks
get
for
people
doing
get
it,
too
Jen.
big. People get too
I
big, and
know.
then they forget about lending that hand to that person that's like a couple steps below them. It's all right.
Yeah.
That's a good
How?
point. I mean, I'll drop one more little quote, just trying to give you much outtakes you can. And everyone talks about getting the least successful or get you or doing better than you. That also you can help out. If you're always the guy that's in the room that's always trying to advance, that means you're never the guy that's lending a hand to the next person. Because part of the expectation is if I'm in the room with people that are smarter than me, your expectation is that they're all going to help you as a little guy. Well, in turn, that means that you're putting yourself into rooms where people are less as successful as you. But kind of goes both ways. Or it should be going both ways
Fair
if
point.
you're doing it right.
Well, it's easy for Joe to be in a room not being the smartest person. So Joe doesn't have that problem.
I think he would say that it's easiest for you to be in the room and not be the fittest person.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. These guys, they just come
Absolute
here to make trouble.
savagery.
But I actually,
I have to love it.
I
You gotta
know.
love it,
I
man.
you know what though? But
Watching them talk.
I'm glad they stopped by and comment. That's what makes it fun. I love doing these. If it wasn't for them, I mean, really, it would kind of take a, we wouldn't have much to talk about sometimes, right? So I'm glad they stopped by. Yeah, Lawrence says great Q4 goals. Yeah, I mean, me renting out my house. I've been saying it for how long? So I finally
Mhm.
pulled the trigger, and it's not fun moving everything out, and part of the problem is just I don't want to ask for help to move out too, because then I'm
Putting your pride
obligated
on
to
the
help
line.
other people. No, it's more I'm obligated
No?
to help other people
Help
now,
other
right? So
people, that's right.
I
Yeah.
kind of just want to do it myself, get majority of out. So actually I have it pretty much leased out already, though people have been messaging me already. So I told them you can look at it, but it's still a mess. They're like, oh no, we want to see it already. And so I'm like, okay. And they're like, you know what, you can leave it, we'll clean it for you. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. But yeah, so it's
You're
gonna
offering.
be
And
yeah.
and I got to go real in a minute here, but I wanted to just piggyback off of what Lawrence said. Great fourth quarter goals, everybody. And this is to those viewers out there who have not yet pulled the trigger. You're not going to have any quarter goals until you actually overcome that fear and get on the property ladder. That is the key to have these goals going forward. So just keep that in mind.
All right. Thanks, Chris, man. Yeah, hop off anytime you got to, but thanks for doing this,
Thanks,
man.
guys. It was a great job. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Good to
Chris.
chat, Chris.
Thanks.
That's funny. He mentioned that though. So I don't know, Matt, if you know Dennis from the school community. Oh, I guess Donaldo's gone too. But all right, cool. It's just you and me, man, for a little while.
All right, dude.
But,
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah. But Dennis from the school community, he just got a turnkey property through rent to retirement. No. Yeah, rent to
Oh,
retirement.
that's a big one, especially
Yeah,
out here, out in Florida and Alabama.
Yeah. So I think his property is in Alabama, I believe. I forget. But anyways, he's been looking for a while, right? He's been trying to run deals, and he just been struggling. So definitely you are paying a premium going with a turnkey company, but I think it's a good way to get a base hit and get, like he's saying, like Chris was saying, like get over that fear, get on the property ladder, and you're gonna learn so much more after, right? I mean, like we always talk about, there's always problems that come up, things you have to figure out how to deal with, and if you don't get a property or if you're not on the investment property ladder, those things are just like book knowledge, right? You can read about it, you can listen to podcasts, but until you actually have to figure it out for yourself, it's a lot of things that you kind of just you don't know how to handle it, right? So I think just getting a base hit, getting started. So Dennis, if you are out there listening, congratulations. And just like Chester, wealth building journey, he got his first turnkey property. So yeah, a lot of people in the ORAC community doing a lot of cool stuff. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
So how's everything with you? The
That's awesome.
hurricane or what came through there?
Yeah,
The
we had
storm.
Hurricane Francine made landfall as a Category 2, and so thankfully, no flooding, no loss of power. Although we had other folks, in neighboring areas that did lose power and had some significant flooding. So we kind of got lucky on that end. Mostly just cleaning up some debris, trees and some stuff. But yeah, I think that's the other thing that's a factor if you're, investing along the coast here. And for us in New Orleans, it's, insurance costs, flood insurance, right? Those things aren't trending down, right? So you're factoring that as you're making these calculations and analyzing deals. Um, and yeah, oh yeah, Lawrence, I'm in the Uptown area by Tipitinas. Man, we'll have to link up when you're back from your trip. But yeah, so stationed here, both my wife and I in New Orleans until 2027. So
How come everybody in your area, man? How come you don't-
dude, New Orleans, it's a great city. I mean, good vibes, great food, nice people. Can't complain.
Yeah,
That's
Lawrence, you got to
probably
meet
it.
up with Matt, and there's also Ned and Stan. So they've been on my lives a few times. And actually, did you guys all actually meet up yet together, or just you and Ned?
Yeah, no, we've done a meetup. Kind of just met at a little coffee shop. I know we're trying to Stan's schedule offshore.
Yeah.
I think it's 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So we kind of get a little window, but it's like when he's off, man, he's traveling. So, it's always good to see him.
Yeah, cool. I bet Lawrence. Anyone, I don't know if anyone's going to the BP Con. Go check out Lawrence. He's going to be a guest speaker there, so go check him out. Go tell him where you saw him from. From ORAT community, school community. But cool, Lawrence. You're doing some. I don't know, Lawrence. Are you still on X? I don't see you too much on X as much as before. But I don't know if you're still there. But cool. Yeah, man. This was fun, man. This was good catching
Yeah,
up. It's
dude.
been a while. I know you're busy. I see a lot of Tesla stuff now. Are you back on Facebook? You weren't on Facebook for a while, right?
So what is it? I think Opus Clips,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think I only have X and YouTube. No, sorry, Instagram and YouTube as the connected accounts, and then I just stopped posting on Facebook so I could just like dedicate time to just X and YouTube. So I think all the information I think is auto connected through X, YouTube, because on Opus, I think you need. I'm trying to think. Is there?
I've been seeing you.
I'll have to look.
I've been seeing you on Facebook now.
Interesting. I wonder. I probably have it connected to Opus, but I feel like I only do it on X and YouTube.
Oh,
Check
because
it out.
I never saw you on Facebook, and then only the past month you've been popping up. So I thought you
Oh,
didn't have an account.
has it been old content? It might have been
Yeah,
old content.
I mean, yeah, Tesla stuff.
Yeah, dude, we've been slacking on anything new. We'll have to, reconvene, reorganize our goals here. But it's always
All
fun.
right. Yeah, man. Well, what you got planned for the weekend then? Before we wrap things up.
Dude, I got duty today, so my 24-hour shift starts at 3:30. So duty until Saturday, probably Saturday night, dinner with some friends. Pretty chill, low key. It's kind of
All
how it
right.
is.
Well, yeah, work on some content, man. Put some more stuff out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone out there, thanks for tuning in. Sorry for the little guest appearance, Bud. You want to say bye to everyone? You want to come up here and say bye to everyone?
Close it out.
Yeah, say bye. Tell everyone have a great weekend. Okay, come here. Say bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning
Bye.
and have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
All right,
Okay,
everyone.
see ya. Yeah, take
All right.
care.
Bye bye.